Have you ever poured hours into a paper, being super careful to cite every single source, but still had that nagging feeling that you might get flagged for plagiarism? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dive into a really tricky but common issue called patchwriting. It can happen completely by accident, but stick with me, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to avoid it and make your writing that much stronger.
So let's just get right into it with the big question. You did the work. You found your sources. You even added the citation. So how on earth could your writing still be considered plagiarism? I know, it's a super frustrating thought. Well, the answer lies in this idea of patchwriting. It's not about if you cite, it's about how you write.
All right, so what is this hidden form of plagiarism? The first thing you need to know is that patchwriting usually isn't about someone trying to cheat. Honestly, it's more often a sign that a writer is just trying to get comfortable with new ideas or new terminology. So let's break down what it actually looks like.
Okay, so here's the official definition. At its heart, patchwriting is when you try to paraphrase something, but your version ends up sticking way too close to the original. Maybe you swapped out a few words for synonyms or shuffled the clause around, but the basic sentence structure, the bones of the sentence, and the flow of ideas are still the original author's. And here's the real problem. Even with that citation, you're accidentally passing off their writing style as your own. The scholar who really put this on the map, Rebecca Moore Howard, described it perfectly. She called it copying from a source text and then deleting some words, altering grammatical structures, or plugging in one-for-one synonym substitutes. Think of it like a patchwork quilt. You're basically stitching together big chunks of the original author's fabric with just a few of your own tiny stitches in between. It looks different, but it's still mostly their material.
So, how do you spot this in your own writing? Well, there are a few telltale signs. Are you just right-clicking words and picking synonyms from the list? Is your sentence built exactly like the one in your source material? And are you following the original author's train of thought, point for point, in the exact same order? If you're nodding along, you might be drifting into patchwriting territory.
Okay, enough with the theory. Let's see if you can actually spot this stuff in action. We're going to play a little game. I'm about to show you an original text and then two different attempts to paraphrase it. Your job is to figure out which one is the proper paraphrase and which one is the patchwriting. Ready?
All right, here we go. The original text is about why people are drawn to professional wrestling. Now look closely at attempt A and attempt B. One of them does a great job of capturing the idea in a new way. The other, well, it's a textbook example of patchwriting. Go ahead and pause here if you need a second to think it over. Okay, got your answer in mind? Which one is it? Is it A or is it B? Let's find out.
And the patchwriting example is attempt B. If you picked B, you're absolutely right. Just look at how closely it mimics the original text. Phrases like mainstream sports refrain from and a large part of wrestling's appeal is generated by are lifted almost directly. It just swaps a few words. But now look at attempt A. It expresses the exact same core idea, but it uses a completely different sentence structure and vocabulary. That's the goal right there.
Now, it is so easy to look at that example of attempt B and just think, wow, that's just lazy writing. But the real story is usually a lot more complicated than that. You know, patchwriting isn't really about a moral failure. It's often just a normal developmental step for a writer who's still finding their confidence.
In fact, a lot of experts see patchwriting as a kind of learning tool. I mean, think about it. When you're wrestling with a really complex topic, sometimes the only way to start understanding it is to mimic the experts. It's how you learn the lingo of a new field. You can even think of it as a drafting strategy, that I'll just get this down and fix it later approach. It's a phase to grow out of, not something to be ashamed of.
Okay, so if it's a phase, how do you actually move past it? That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, the good news is there's a really practical 5-step guide that can help you paraphrase effectively and, most importantly, ethically.
Trust me, this 5-step process is a total game changer. Step 1, just read the passage to get the main idea. Don't worry about details. Step 2, read it again, but this time jot down just the key points, no full sentences. Step 3, and this is the most important one, put the original source away. Seriously, close the book, minimize the tab, whatever you have to do. Then, for step 4, you write your own version based only on your memory and your notes. This forces you to use your own words and sentence structure. And finally, step 5, bring the original back, compare what you wrote, fix anything that's too close, and of course, add that citation.
So as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final thought. Because learning to paraphrase correctly, it's about so much more than just avoiding plagiarism or getting a better grade. The true goal here is actually way bigger.
When you finally move beyond patchwriting, what you're really doing is developing confidence in your own voice. You're proving to yourself that you don't just recognize an idea, you truly understand it. You get it so well that you can teach it to someone else, in your own words. And that's the real leap from being a student who repeats information to being a thinker who contributes to the conversation.
So there you have it. We've defined patchwriting, we've learned how to spot it, and we've walked through a clear 5-step process to avoid it for good. You officially have the tools. The only question left is, how are you going to use them to find and strengthen your own powerful authorial voice? Thanks for checking out this explainer.